Atrus!
I don't...
The villagers are safely in the Rebel Age. I thank you.
As do I. You've accomplished more than I could have hoped for. You've given me back my life. The path home is now clear for all of us. This is where our paths must part. Perhaps we'll meet again someday. You know where to find me. Goodbye, my friend.
I realized as I fell into the fissure that Atrus was right. The fissure was not a vacuum, but was in fact perfectly hospitable to life. And if the Myst book had fallen through this void to end up in my hands, then it seems to be my best hope for getting home again. I don't know how long I fell through that starry expanse, minutes, hours, or even days. Perhaps time passes differently in there altogether. However, after some time I began to approach one of the many dark areas in the starfield, and I began to feel a change. A tingling sensation, not unlike linking, but more subtle, more gradual. Below me, the blackness was resolving into a surface, the surface of another world. Before I had time to contemplate how to safely land on the fast approaching ground, I had already hit it. Fortunately, it wasn't a very hard fall at all. Although it was night, I easily recognized the desert that surrounded me. Earth. I was home. In fact, it was not far from where I originally found the Myst book. Using the stars and the silhouette of a nearby volcano that I had previously seen from afar to guide me, I went back to that place and found it there exactly as I left it. Next to it was my pack, left behind when I linked so unexpectedly, and its presence meant that my traveling companions hadn't found this place, and had moved on without me. Presumably they'd thought me lost or perhaps killed in the desert. No doubt they'll be very relieved to learn that I'm okay once I return to civilization, though I doubt they'll ever believe what happened to me. I put the Myst linking book together with the book to Kavir that Atrus dropped in the fissure just before I fell in, and began preparations for the journey home. Nearly 10 years have passed since that time. 10 years of trying to adjust to normal life again, but I've found it difficult. When I close my eyes, I still see images of Myst, Selenitic, Stone Ship, Mechanical, Channelwood, and Riven. The things that satisfied me before, a job, friends, family, seem mundane compared to the knowledge of these fantastical worlds that are out there. Yet at times, I cannot help but wonder if any of it really happened. I look at the two linking books, stare at the linking panels, and wonder if I'm not just imagining it. I've never shown them to anyone, afraid they'd take the books away from me. However, I also haven't worked up the courage to use them again. I tell myself that it's because I'm afraid that I won't be able to find Atrus, I won't have a way home anymore, and that I might get trapped on those ages. But maybe it's because I'm afraid that if I try it, and it doesn't work, that I have to face the fact that my journeys through these worlds really were nothing but a vivid dream. Enough is enough. I cannot deal with the uncertainty, yet I cannot risk using the books and getting trapped. That leaves only one alternative. I have to go back to the desert. Surely, if I really did fall from the sky through the starfisher from Riven, some evidence of that must remain. I've already begun preparations and will set off shortly. It wasn't difficult to find the volcano, and much to my relief, evidence of my experiences was there, plain to see. Near the place where I landed at the foot of the volcano, I found the corroded remains of what was once Gen's telescope. Nearby, I even found the remains of a warg. The poor creature must have been drawn into the fissure somehow. When I climbed up the volcano and looked into the caldera, I even found a giant dagger that stood next to the linking cage on Riven. From the modest height of the crater's edge, I could see something else, even more remarkable. A structure, standing next to a crevasse, a cleft in the desert. Upon closer examination, I found the structure was some kind of windmill, and the cleft had been somebody's home long ago. I wondered if it could be some of the Rivenese that Gen had cast into the fissure for his vile experiments, but somehow I doubt it, as the rooms look quite different from the villages on Riven and Tay. In any case, it appears to be abandoned now, so I have decided to make my camp here for the night. This morning, something extraordinary happened. As I was preparing my breakfast, I heard the distinct creaking of someone descending down the ladder into the cleft. Wary that it might be bandits who followed me here, I took my pistol and went to meet the visitors. Imagine my amazement when it turned out to be Atrus. His own surprise at seeing me was equally great, as he clearly had not expected to ever see me again. He told me that this was the home of his childhood, where he grew up with his grandmother. I was astonished to learn that Atrus was part human, and that Dunny and Kavir were actually on Earth, or more accurately, below it. Indeed, if I had been able to get past the rock fall in Kavir and through the ancient tunnels, I could perhaps have walked home, although I expect that would have been an even more perilous journey than my forays through Riven. Atrus, for his part, was less surprised to learn of my origins, as he had suspected it ever since he found a Riven remnant here in the desert. However, with only a first name to go on, he had no hope of locating me. But now, against all odds, I have been reunited with my friend. He has invited me to his new home, Tamana, which is not far from here. He also said he wants to show me a new age he has been working on, and to introduce me to other Dunny survivors that he has made contact with in the past decade. I have to return to civilization for a short while, to make some preparations for a prolonged absence, but soon I will return to take Atrus up on his offer. It seems that the ending to my adventures has not yet been written.
I realized as our group linked back to Dunny that we should not restore the city as we had planned. The once magnificent buildings lay in ruin, a testament to the hatred that had consumed them. Too many people had fallen victim to that hate, to the prejudice and greed from which it sprang. Gazing out across the cavern, I decided to write another age, one that would help the Dunny survivors begin again, free from the tragedies of their past. So with my wife, Catherine, supporting me, I put aside that past to write a future. More than a year has gone by since I finished writing Rishon. I have a new daughter, who I hope will someday link to that age with me. And as I imagine Yisha meeting the Dunny, those brave men and women who are building a new life for themselves, I realize I've been given another chance as well. A chance to learn from my mistakes and leave the past behind me once and for all.
Breathtaking, isn't it?
Indeed it is. And welcome to Let's Play Myst III Exile. Yes, I'm finally doing it, the last Myst game that I have left to Let's Play. After Riven was completed, Cyan started investigating the possibilities of making a Myst game in real-time 3D, a project codenamed DIRT, short for Dunny in Real Time, which eventually became the game we know as Uru Ages Beyond Myst. Meanwhile, the task of creating a more traditional Myst-like sequel was given to Presto Studios, who released this game in 2001. So while this game was not made by Cyan, they did consult on it to make sure that the plot fits with established lore, and you've already seen that Rand Miller reprises his role as Atrus. This game is set about 9 or 10 years after the events of Myst and Riven, and one thing that has never been officially explained, as far as I know, is how the Stranger and Atrus met up again. The story that I told at the beginning here certainly isn't the official version, because I wrote it. Maybe it happened that way, maybe it didn't, but I think it's certainly a possibility. Well, let's take a look around this breathtaking landscape, which we can actually do in 360-degree freedom, something which was first introduced in this game.
We call it Tamana. We moved here after Atrus finished writing Relation. He wanted us to have a new home too. I'm so glad to see you. I told Atrus our paths would cross again. He was just going to grab something for your trip to Relation, so he shouldn't be terribly long. Unless he decides to check over the whole house first, which means he could be hours resetting all his padlocks. But I know he was looking forward to introducing you to the Dunny, so he shouldn't be terribly long. Why don't you wait in his study?
And that is Catherine, played by a different actress than in Riven. But since she only has a very small role, doesn't really matter that much. So this is Tamana, which we actually know is not an age or a separate age of its own, but is in the desert of New Mexico, near the cleft, and the volcano that leads into the Dunny Caverns. So in a way, this isn't actually all that far from where we first met Atrus, albeit that was underground in Kavir. For those of you who have played Myst IV, or watched my Let's Play of that, you may recognize this location, as it appears there too. And according to the strategy guide, it is called the Sun Room, for what are, I think, obvious reasons.
You know, this trip is exactly what Atrus needs right now. I haven't been able to get him out of the house for months, ever since he found his journals out of place. But seeing how well the Dunny have settled in on Relation should help him to finally relax.
I don't think Atrus knows what the meaning of the word relax is. It seems that the stranger was invited to come to Tamana to visit this new age that Atrus has been writing for the Dunny survivors, Relation. Well, that will certainly be very interesting to see. Catherine, if you don't stop shaking Yisha like that, she might end up with brain damage and get weird ideas about being the grower or something. Let's see, we should wait in Atrus' study. Let's try.
I'm sorry, the other door.
This door leads to parts of Tamana that are not accessible in this game, but you can see them in Myst IV. Yeah, that's kind of obviously looped footage, but anyway. For the time, it was quite a technical marvel that they were able to incorporate live-action video into the 360-degree views like this. And it is certainly a step up technologically from Riven, although personally I prefer the style of that game still. I guess we need to go through this door. Atrus' study, I suppose. Well, while we're waiting for him, I suppose we might as well look around. I mean, nobody told us not to, so... Books, of course. What else would you expect? And one book appears to be a linking book, but it's not working. That does not look good. And we can find out the reason why it does not look good on the cover, because this... I can actually free the mouse cursor by right-clicking. This is the Dunny number 5. So this is a linking book to Riven, Gen's 5th Age, which of course was destroyed, so naturally it doesn't work anymore. The strategy guide says that this is the descriptive book, but we've seen a descriptive book in Riven itself and at the end of Myst, and it looked a lot bigger than this and had a different cover. So I think this is just a linking book. Let's see what else is here. Office supplies. Very exciting. Paper, various inks. Any of them real book writing ink? I don't know, that doesn't sound like something that Atrus would just keep out in the open like that. Especially since he's apparently been having trouble with intruders here, since his journals were out of place. Or maybe Yisha has just been crawling where she shouldn't, and Atrus is getting excited about nothing. What the hell is this thing? Some kind of crystal. Maybe something related to the crystal viewer. Who knows? Or a crystal from some other age. The crystal from the crystal viewers came from Everdunes, I think. An age we never saw. I don't know where this crystal came from. And Catherine and Yisha, who is still very young here. This is about 10 years before the events of Myst IV, and about 190 before Myst V. And a letter. Well, if Atrus didn't want us to read his personal mail, he shouldn't have left it on the desk like that. That's my theory. Tamon, thank you for responding so quickly to my request for Nara pet locks. As you know, security in Tamana has become an important issue of late. Perhaps I'm overreacting, as Catherine suggests, but the idea that someone may have been sneaking into my study, reading all of my journals, disturbs me. After what happened to my library on Myst, after my own sons, Cirrus and Akanar, destroyed so many of my books, I've come to realize how delicate the link is to my world. I've never been able to repair those burned books to link to each age and find out if the inhabitants survived. The padlocks won't change that situation, but they should ease my fear of trespassers considerably. Sincerely, Atrus. I guess he was planning to send this, has not yet sent it, unless this is a copy or something, I don't know. Of course he was never able to repair those books, that's functionally impossible from what we know about how descriptive books function. And it is only natural that Atrus wants to prevent a repeat of the events in Myst. Or preceding Myst, technically. Tamon is one of the Dunny survivors that Atrus has found in the intervening years between Riven and this game. And it seems he has made some padlocks for Tamana, which are made from Nara, which is a very hard Dunny stone. Harder than steel. Considerably harder than steel. It's pretty much unbreakable. Magnifying glass. And finally, a picture of Cirrus and Akanar. I suppose Atrus is still a little bit sentimental about them. He isn't just trying to ignore that they existed or anything. Which I suppose is a good thing. Oh, that seems to be about it for the desk. We've seen Atrus sit at this desk, actually, in the introduction, writing in his... I think it was a journal. It looked like a book he was writing in. But then why did he sign it with his name? I think the main reason that he signed it with his name is so that the players who haven't played the first two Myst games know that that person is Atrus. And that the player isn't Atrus, because if you didn't know that, some of the rest of the game gets really confusing. Okay, let's see. There is a linking book here, by the looks of it. Must be a very important one. And two tapestries on the walls. Let's take a look at those. And we actually want to start with the one on this side. These tapestries show the events from the Book of Dunny, the third Myst novel. in which Atrus set out to find survivors of the Dunny and rebuild the city. Of course, he realized he couldn't do that alone, and he needed help. And he enlisted the help of several people from the Age of Averone, which I think is what we're seeing here. In any case, I know that this is Atrus, and I know that these are the Averonese. Whether or not that scene actually depicts Atrus asking for help, that is slightly less clear. And with the help of the Averonese, Atrus linked back to Dunny, and the only link he had was back into that room in Kavir that we were in at the end of Myst and Riven. But that was blocked by a rockfall that Atrus had caused himself, so they had to clear that up. But after they did that, they were able to come outside and lay eyes on the city, which is shown here. I wonder if this is Igura or any of the other districts we know from Uru. Could be, because Igura is indeed where they set up camp first, which is depicted here. They set up camp at the ferry docks of Igura, and in this panel we see them dragging up some boats, which they thought they might be able to repair to get around the city and around the cavern more easily, so they could look for linking books, because obviously there were no Dunny survivors in the city. So their only hope was to try and find linking books to other ages in the hope that some of the Dunny had been able to escape the plague that Viovis had unleashed that brought down the Great Dunny civilization. For this I refer you to the book of Tiana, the second Myst novel. This panel shows Atrus reading something. I'm not sure if this is him checking the various linking books they found to see if they were safe, or perhaps it is him reading his father's journals on Kavir. Could be either, I suppose. And so started the long search for survivors. They split up into teams and investigated various different ages. Sometimes they didn't really know for certain if these ages were even still intact, and so they had to use the special maintainer suits to make sure it was safe to link to an age. This particular panel shows one of those suits just after it came back from an age that had gone supernova. We've seen those suits in Uru as well, of course, in Garrison. Apparently they can survive being in a supernova, albeit only for a few seconds. It's kind of quite impressive technology, I would say. But even in those ages that were safe, they had not much luck. This panel shows Merim, one of the Averonese and a principal character of the Book of Dunny, finding a dead family on one of the ages. It's a scene lifted straight from the book. They also had some other problems, because on one of the ages they actually found dangerous animals. This shows the age of Aurak, where they found an animal that the Dunny had set loose, I think for hunting, for sport. And this is Carrot, one of the Averonese, investigating the remains of his friend Mir, who had been killed by the animal who made those tracks. So it was definitely not an easy task to try and find survivors. But at last, on one of the ages they met with success. At first it looked like the age was abandoned, but the harbor village that they found did show signs of recent inhabitation. And in fact it turned out that the Dunny were living on this gigantic boat, or something. And they found them, and were able to make contact. And one of those Dunny is actually Tamon, the one that we just saw the letter addressed to. Might be one of the people here, because it was actually one of the very first Dunny that Atrus met. And Tamon was quite old, so he actually predates the fall, so he remembered how it happened and what things were like, so he was a very instrumental figure in trying to rebuild the city. Of course, many other things happened in the Book of Dunny, and eventually that led Atrus to believe that they should not rebuild the city, as it was too tainted by the history of violence that had caused its fall. And therefore he instead decided to write this new age, Relishon, that we are now going to visit. And speaking of Relishon, I assume that this prominently displayed book over here is the Relishon linking book, or descriptive book probably even, because a linking book would not be important enough to place on the glass like this. And I see that Atrus takes the same approach to protecting important things as Scrooge McDuck. Never seemed to work for him very well, but whatever. Well, it is a nice display at least, prominently lit up by... Are these fire marbles? I'm not sure. They seem rather large for fire marbles. Might be something else. Anyway, it looks nice. The entire room has quite a nice decor. Much nicer than the Spartan decor of Myst, if I do say so myself. Whatever. Let's take a look. Yep, Relishon. Some Dunny writing on it as well. I'm not sure what that says, and it seems to be locked. Which makes sense, because it is rather important. I wonder if we're actually going to use this book to link there, or if Atrus will just have us use a regular linking book. Since it's been a year since he wrote this book, I assume that he doesn't need to unlock it every time he goes there. Oh well, we can't unlock it anyway, and we don't have a book, so we'll just have to wait for Atrus to show up.
Well, my friend, I see you found the Relishon book. Catherine tells me you've been here for some time. Sorry if I've kept you waiting. But since we'll be gone a few days, I needed to secure some of my things. And I also wanted to bring you this. It's a journal I kept while I was writing Relishon. I thought you might find it interesting to read about what I'd hoped to achieve, compared to what the age truly is. Well, just let me get my keys to unlock Relishon, and we'll be off. Oh, and I'm interested in hearing what you've been up to in recent months. No! No!
He took the book! And Atrus is blocked by fire, so we'll have to follow him. But we'll have to do that in the next video.